The Commission spent years working on this very significant report. They clearly took their work very seriously. Hearing from the public, experts, and those involved in anti-money laundering work in the province, nationally, and internationally, their report provides our government and the Government of Canada, along with regulators, law enforcement agencies, and businesses, with a comprehensive, ambitious yet realistic roadmap to continue and coordinate our work fighting money laundering in British Columbia and Canada. Our government asked the Commissioner to look into the problem of money laundering and tell us how big a problem it really is. Was this just a matter of a failed federal prosecution concerning one rogue money laundering business? Had the province functionally eliminated the issue in casinos? Or was this, as I and many suspected, a problem that crossed sectors, had national and international links, and required sustained, multi-year, and multi-pronged responses? The Commissioner's response to this question is authoritative, complete, and disturbing. In this report, the Commissioner has advised all British Columbians and the Government of Canada that the volume of money laundering in our province is, quote, enormous, unquote. On reading this report, it is clear that the Commissioner's overriding conclusion in this regard is well grounded in testimony from police, experts in the field, and direct primary research. This important conclusion and the Commission's connection of money laundering in our province to violent crime and the illicit and poison drug trade underlines the reasons our government called this inquiry and the need for further efforts from all governments, regulators, and businesses. I noted with appreciation the Commission's findings, approving and supporting my own actions when I was responsible for the gambling file. And I'm glad to hear that after extensive review and challenge by various parties that the Commission has confirmed my understanding that there was a serious and decade-long continuing problem of organized crime laundering hundreds of millions of dollars in BC casinos at the time I took over the gaming file. The Commission also confirmed that it was the work of our government in 2017 that revealed the extent of this problem for the public and ended this criminality in relation to casinos after a decade of insufficient action. At this point, I would like to explicitly recognize the important role of members of the media in covering this issue for years before my time in the role as Minister responsible for gaming, and for years after, including during the pendency of this Commission of Inquiry. Many reporters also worked with and were supported by interested citizen advocates who should also be recognized. This number of dedicated reporters, both current and retired, you and I both know who you are, have spent extended amounts of time pulling at the threads that were available on the issue of money laundering, trying to get a sense for the public of the scope of the problem, and trying to ensure accountability and reform without any of the tools the inquiry had to demand records, compel testimony, and investigate. Despite that, you exposed much of what was confirmed by the Commission's work. Without your efforts, I do not believe that this inquiry would have taken place. It was called in response to widespread public concern about this issue, and your work contributed to public education. The conclusions of the Commissioner after years of study are a vindication of you and your work, your motivations for taking it on, and the influence that investigative reporting can have on government priorities and reform. Congratulations for your efforts, and I look forward to you holding me, our government, and those who come after me accountable to these recommendations and this critically important issue for all British Columbians and Canadians. Personally, I will never, ever forget my first briefing by the Gaming Policy Enforcement Branch, and I remain grateful to this day for their frank assessment of the problem. I believe it is immoral for government to receive the proceeds of crime in a way that benefits the budget's bottom line and supports that activity. I acted accordingly. I had the support of the Premier and the then Finance Minister in doing so, and I am honored that the Commission agreed with my understandings and concluded that the actions I took, with the support of Dr. Peter German, had the desired outcomes. I thank Dr. German for his work, taken under short timelines with high expectations and scrutiny, for assisting me with grappling with this issue in a way that would result in these positive conclusions from the Commissioner many years later. Our government has continued work on anti-money laundering measures based on previous reports, and much of this work overlaps with the Commission's current recommendations. We have not been waiting for the Commission to conclude. With that noted, I am excited about the potential of these new recommendations to help us attack gang crime, the illicit toxic drug trade, human trafficking, and other evils associated with money laundering in new and aggressive ways, going at the core that motivates, for example, vulnerable young people to consider getting involved in criminal lifestyles, the money, the luxury goods, the cars, and the properties. I'm appreciative of the Government of Canada's participation in this inquiry. I know that some of the findings of the Commission will be challenging for my federal colleagues. They will be, I'm sure, as I am, disappointed by the Commissioner's conclusions about the failures at FINTRAC, the ineffectiveness of federal enforcement responses related to money service businesses, the collapse of the federal working group announced in 2018 related to trade-based money laundering, the inadequacy of federal policing dedicated to this issue after literally a decade of public concern about this crime, and on and on and on. There was a reason the federal government wanted to participate in this inquiry with us, as I understood it. Like me, like my colleagues in government, I assume and understand that my federal colleagues saw the collapse of the Federal Prosecution Service's largest anti-money laundering prosecution in Canadian history as the symptom of an underlying serious and ongoing problem. Also, like me and like our government, I believe that they wanted to know what more could be done. Thank you to this Commission. We have those answers now. And I hope and expect that the new federal minister with responsibility for this file, Minister Mendicino, will join with us in addressing this important shared challenge. I hope he will have the Prime Minister's and the federal Cabinet support in this important cooperative work. With that said, I agree with the Commissioner's implicit, unstated conclusion that the province can no longer rely on or wait for federal responses to address this problem, and we must take on a stronger role related to enforcement around previously exclusively federal responsibilities. For example, the regulation of money service businesses, the requirement of collection of money laundering data from sectors of the economy that should have been on FINTRAC's mandatory reporting list, like the luxury goods sector, and oversight of the export of grey market vehicles. I am enthusiastic about this comprehensive work by the Commissioner and believe these recommendations will help us to transform the meaning of the Vancouver model from a description of unchecked, dirty money moving through our casinos to a model of governments responding forcefully to the threat of money laundering. I look forward to working on these reforms with my colleagues both inside and outside government, with regulators and businesses provincially, with other provinces, with the federal government, and with all British Columbians. Thank you.